So I was interested to see if the Bucks would do much of anything at the deadline. They didn't really. They signed Marvin Williams on a buyout. He's a nice player. You could give him some good minutes, play some defense, make some threes. That's cool. Nice move. But for the most part, they basically just kept the team together. They didn't really shake anything up. And basically I'm asking, are the Bucks unbeatable? Is it inevitable that they get to the finals and they go through the East? Even if they do face some adversity along the way. Is there ever going to be a doubt in our mind that the Bucks will be in the finals? And I'll talk a bit about how I think a series against each of the good teams in the East would go for the Bucks, and we'll talk about Bledsoe and Middleton a little bit. But I do want to start with Giannis, of course, because there's a world in which even if Bledsoe craps his pants, Giannis is so good it doesn't matter against even a team like the Raptors. You know, honestly, for all the talk about Giannis's three-pointer, I don't think it's going to be a necessity for the Bucks to win. I feel like if he's not shooting them that much, or if he's not even making them that much, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I mean, on Christmas, Philly was sagging off of Giannis like crazy from three, but if they're doing that in a postseason series, and, you know, maybe it's Philly, maybe it's the Raptors, Celtics, whoever, the Bucks will just call timeout, and then they'll just adjust. Like, they'll have Giannis set a screen, they'll have somebody up, they'll have Middleton come up for a handoff play, and then Giannis will set a screen for him. Like, they'll do stuff, you know. It's not just going to be, well, we're not defending Giannis from outside, we figured out Milwaukee, you know what I mean? And as far as all the inside stuff and the transition and the catching of alley-oops and offensive rebounds and all that, all the stuff that Giannis does that makes him a superhero, no one's going to stop any of that, okay? The Raptors managed to slow him down. Even then, he was still pretty damn alright. Dude put up like 22, 14, and 5. But you know what? I think just going through that type of a series, I think does a lot to you when you're as good as Giannis is. And I feel like if he's put in that same position again where the Raptors are loading up on him every chance they get, and all of his teammates are noticeably a little nervous, especially Bledsoe, I could picture Giannis figuring it out this time around. And I know that sounds like a lot of hyperbole, but I do genuinely believe that. As far as how I would apply that to X's and O's, I don't totally know. Maybe it would just be Giannis being more aggressive, posting up a little bit more, probably spotting the open guy, because that was the thing the Raptors did, was they dared Giannis to be a playmaker. And he was okay, but he definitely missed some open teammates sometimes. The free throws do still scare me, though. I mean, Giannis's free throws just flat out worse this season, and I don't know what to make of it. Also, of course, Kawhi is in the West now, so he's not going to have to deal with him. I do think they will run into some sort of a wall at some point. It's, of course, not going to happen in round one. Could happen in round two. I mean, as of right now, they would be playing either the Heat or the Sixers in round one. And Philly's huge, of course, and they've built their, in theory, great defensive team to go at Giannis. That was a big reason why they signed Horford, and that could give him some problems. And then with Miami, I mean, with as versatile of a defender as Bam is, and with the Iguodala acquisition, and Jimmy, and Duncan Robinson's, pretty big, perhaps that could give the Bucks some trouble as well. And we'll talk about the individual players in the Bucks in a second, but if we also look at the Raptors or the Celtics, which we assume would be the other second-round series, although even then, one of those two teams will be playing the sixth seed, which is going to be either the Pacers or the Sixers, and depending on how those two teams look going into the playoffs, even that could be a tough series. But for whatever the hell I'm talking about, looking at like how the Raptors match up with the Bucks, I mean, between Siakam, Gasol, Ibaka, Lowry, Anunoby, still a lot of switchability and just a lot of smart defenders, and I guess the big question would be if Lowry can just simply make enough shots against that Bucks defense. I mean, he was great as Kawhi's number 2 guy. I mean, Lowry averaged 19, 5, and 5 on great efficiency against the Bucks in that series. So basically what I'm getting at is, while I would pick the Bucks to beat the Raptors in a playoff series, I really would not be shocked if the Raptors managed to beat them again. Now, of course, they don't have Kawhi, and for a lot of this stuff, it really just comes down to who's the guy who's going to drop 30 a game, and that was Kawhi in that series. So perhaps that would be the thing that holds the Raptors back. I mean, Siakam has been having games like that this season, but Kawhi was shooting threes with dudes in his face, and he was hitting turnaround mid-rangers all day, and you got to be able to hit a lot of tough shots against a team with this much switchability and size and smarts in the Bucks. And, Siakam, for all the improvement he's made, is he at that level just yet? I guess the other idea would be if Lowry and Siakam just both were scoring over 20 a game every night against the Bucks, but even then, it's tough in the postseason, But again, I would definitely not be shocked if the Raptors manage the upset. If we go to the Celtics, because there's a chance they would be the team meeting the Bucks in the conference finals. I'm just looking at the seedings. Like if, the Raptors and Celtics will probably meet in round 2 if it happened right now, playoffs. So for the Celtics, I mean, the thing that they have that I don't know if anybody else in the East has is they have so much ball handling, between Kemba, Jalen, Tatum, and Hayward. And maybe that's the recipe for going at Milwaukee, is you just have a bunch of dudes who just don't have any glaring weaknesses. I mean, I think you can still dare Jalen to do something off the dribble, even as he is better at it. I think you can play some Jedi mind tricks with Tatum to dare him to take mid-rangers. Even then, the dude's been playing out of his mind lately. Headband Jason Tatum is the thing right now. And then with Hayward and Kemba, I mean, I don't know. Kemba's such a good shooter, especially on those pull-up threes, that you might just have to hope he'll miss a few. But even then, Kemba, I think if the Bucks put, let's say, Middleton on Kemba, and they were like, okay, you're not going to score as much this series, but we just want you to do everything you can to take this guy out of the game, that could work. I mean, Bledsoe's a damn good defender too, but Middleton's a lot bigger than Kemba Walker is, so I guess that would be interesting to see how the Celtics dealt with that sort of thing. And if I was Milwaukee, I would trust Bledsoe to defend whoever I'm putting him on between Hayward, Jalen, and Tatum. Of course, the Celtics are going to play a crap ton of Marcus Smart in these playoffs, and if they met the Bucks, then the Bucks are going to dare him to take some shots. And then if we can look at like Miami and Philly and the Pacers' chances against the Bucks, I mean, with Philly, it's, the offense is awkward, but our defense is so good that they just slow down Giannis between Horford and Simmons and all that. The other thing to talk about with Milwaukee is the idea of Bledsoe just being bad, because he's been overwhelmed before. And if that were to happen, then it could happen against a team like Philly, because maybe Ben Simmons is just defending him and just completely taking him out of the series. And I'm sure the Bucks are hoping, between mainly George Hill, that they can replace Bledsoe, because Hill just hasn't missed a shot all year. But even so, I think Bledsoe on his best day is better than George Hill on his best day, so I think they're still going to need him, and that is something to be concerned about. I mean, I think you could say a similar thing for Miami if they put one of their big defenders, like Iguodala. If Iguodala is really ready to go, you put him on Bledsoe, or Jimmy at times. I mean, Jimmy's a damn good defender, but they're also going to need him a lot on offense, so that'll be interesting to see if teams just really try to take Bledsoe out of the game, I guess. The Raptors have experimented with full court press a bit this season, and maybe that could overwhelm Bledsoe, because, I mean, we've seen it, against the Celtics in that round 1 series, and then we saw it against mainly the Raptors last postseason. Once Bledsoe starts having some tough times and he starts thinking and he gets in his own head, he just becomes a different player. He's hesitant on shooting, he doesn't attack the basket, and starts overthinking everything. He doesn't know whether to shoot or pass, and he's effectively out of the series at that point. And when you're getting into the deep playoffs and you're facing good teams and good coaches, that could be the difference, I'm not as concerned with Middleton, just because I feel like he'll just kind of figure it out, even if it's just shooting 10 threes a game or something. But of course, another thing to talk about with all of those teams, and I'll just kind of put it all into a bubble here, I think the Bucks defense will be ready for anything these teams do. I mean, there is still one question with Budenholzer about does he make enough adjustments in a tough playoff series? And on the flip side, I think we would definitely see that from Nick Nurse, Brad Stevens, Spoelstra, probably not Brett Brown. And I think that's going to be something that's talked about a bit this playoffs. It comes up every playoffs, but I think it's really going to come up this postseason. And I think I look at Nate McMillan the same way I look at Brett Brown, which is don't really trust either one of them in a tough series. So yeah, I think in an attempt to sum this whole thing up, I think the Bucks are still the best team in the East. They're still my pick to make the finals. But could I picture either mainly the Raptors or the Celtics giving them a tough series, potentially even beating them if things go their way really well? Yeah, but I'm still not going to predict that it will actually happen. One thing that I will predict, though,